it's the Camellia Bowl, noon Eastern, Saturday on ESPN in Montgomery, Alabama, between Arkansas State and Northern Illinois. Arkansas State 2.5-point favorite here, over under 53.5. I don't think there's a sponsor to this bowl. It's just the Alabama State Flour. I think this used to be the Tax Act. I don't know. I don't see a sponsor to this bowl. Maybe we'll sponsor this bowl next year. News for this game: Arkansas State starting linebacker Javonte Mackey committed to Memphis. He's their best linebacker. Their defensive lineman Caden Lewis, kind of a depth guy, but played close to 250 snaps. He's not on the bowl depth chart. Their stud center Jacob Byer, he missed the finale after surgery, but looks like he might return for the bowl. And their running back Zach Boss also missed the regular season finale with an injury worth keeping an eye on. Northern Illinois, their news: starting center Pete Niger, he's a good one. He committed to Louisville. He's not going to play. Safety Devin Lafayette, reduced playing time late in the season. He's in the portal. A couple other guys: George Gums, their edge. He's probably the only other meaningful guy. Trayvon Rudolph, their stud return man receiver. He entered the portal and then withdrew, so I would expect him to play. He's massive because they've had some other injuries at wide receiver. I will say it's an interesting handicap. The first thing I want to ask is, like, does the Sun Belt suck?
We didn't think it did.
Yeah, I thought the Sun Belt was much better, but it's a small sample size. But look what we've seen out of the Sun Belt so far. You had Georgia Southern, who just never got off the bus against the Ohio third string offense. It looked like a juggernaut. They didn't even look like a juggernaut with their first string offense all year. You had Louisiana get 3 defensive touchdowns and lose to Jacksonville State. You had App State playing a Miami of Ohio team that couldn't complete a forward pass, and they needed a fumble late to, the 13th fumble of the game. They needed to recover a fumble late. Miami was driving to win that game. They couldn't cover there. And then you had Old Dominion playing the Western Kentucky third stringers. And Western Kentucky barely pulls out that game. So maybe that's they were down 28-0 in that game. So let's look. You have the teams in the Sun Belt that have played bowls. Louisiana, yikes. Not a good effort. Georgia Southern, super yikes. Old Dominion, not being able to beat the Western Kentucky third stringers from up 28-0. And then App State. So none of them covered. 0-4 against the spread. And the only one that won was App State, but they didn't cover. So not a good look. And, when you reach bowl season, sometimes you have these teams and you're power rating them within their conference, and 9-10 games are within the context of their conference, but there can be some discrepancy when you get out of conference in bowl season, and these teams are improving, and it might have more to do with the quality or lack thereof of the conference they're playing in.
But then you have games like Texas State beat Baylor, and people get the perception, right, that the conference.
Yeah, so only 4 games, but not. You're not going to get a huge sample size. There are 12 Sun Belt teams in bowls, but as far as the first 4 are concerned, pretty concerning with Arkansas State. I will say that, when I look at this game, you can't really. Northern Illinois now they do play in the MAC. It was a pretty easy schedule of opposing pass offenses, but their pass defense was great this year. Top 15 pass success rate defense. One of the surprise units in the MAC and across the country, in my opinion. But you can run it on them. But Ark State, not really a great rushing team. 126 EPA per rush, 105th rush success rate. Northern Illinois is slow, which is worth noting. Arkansas State will play faster. I kind of like the over here. I'm a little worried about how Northern Illinois plays, but just when I look at this, I think both offensive profiles are a bit suppressed, because Arkansas State, how they started the year was horrendous. You had Butch Jones was crying on the sidelines, and then they found their quarterback in Rayner, and their offense really took off from there across the board. Northern Illinois also started really slow. Their first 4 games, their offense looked horrendous. They basically named an offensive assistant the de facto offensive coordinator, and he took over play calling duties, and the offensive coordinator was basically demoted. And their offense kind of took off from there. with Rudolph back, that's massive. The Arkansas State defense is not any good. I think this has the potential to turn into a shootout. I would look over here. Arkansas State's a tough team to crack. They have some pretty wild results. What do you see here?
There's a couple things that have me on Arkansas State, and I mean, I have to block out what's been going on with the Sun Belt. But let's start off with Northern Illinois and what they've got going on in the portal. Northern Illinois center, Pete
Nigra, he's good.
Nigra, yeah, in the portal after 772 snaps at center. That's a pretty big position to lose when you look at what's behind him and who's played there. And I'm sorry if I mess his name up again. Logan Zisherditz. He had 53 snaps at right guard and left guard, and he's the one that's going to play center here for the first time this season. Now, I don't know what his career was before Northern Illinois, if he has any time at center, but to me, that is a massive part of the handicap on the Northern Illinois offense, especially when you consider that, Rocky Lombardi is just a turnover-worthy play machine. They played the 131st strength of schedule. They're outside the top 100 in pass explosive success rate and passing downs. I mean, we can make a case that they're going to get points up. They've done it before. They've surprised us in certain spots, but the fact that, they've got a guy playing center that's never played center, at least on the college level, that really kind of sent up a flag for me. Now, on the other side of the ball, like, I know the overall numbers at Arkansas, you mentioned, I mean, this is like a Dirk Cutter at Boise State all over again. Like, they just had this midseason renaissance and then it all worked out for them. I mean, Arkansas State scored 77 points on Texas State in week 13, week 12. So, I mean, they can put points up. So you start with Jalen Rayner in the rush, running a heavy amount of inside zone with Zach Wallace and Jaquez Cross. Northern Illinois is not good against inside zone, 44% success rate. The strength of NIU is the pass defense and preventing explosives. And Arkansas State, I think, is just going to be able to run them. Now, whether it's fast and there's tempo, and I don't know about how quickly they're going to score, totals, I think low enough to be pretty ripe for a taking here. But I also like Arkansas State for Butch Jones. 5-1 against the spread in bowl games. Arkansas State has a much more likely chance of creating methodical drives, setting up scoring opportunities on the ground with Rayner using that inside zone that NIU can't defend. And I just get back to it, that Northern Illinois offense with a new center bothers me. I've taken Arkansas State. I would still take them at 3. I've got a power rated at 5. I would take it up to 5.
Yes, Zernitz, but he's been around for a while. I mean, I think he started a game back in 2019. He was dealt with injuries this year, but he's only ever played guard. I think he might have played some tackle. So yeah, that could end up being a major factor in this game.
For you offensive linemen out there, I mean, there are some offenses where the center is the captain. They call out the blocking schemes for everybody else. So it's a huge adjustment. And God,
yeah, that's the strength of this Northern Illinois team is their O-line.
What's his last name? I'm sorry, Thomas Hammock. Thomas Hammock's offense. Remember, Thomas Hammock, old running back coach. He has a center call the plays out at the line. So that all of that just sent up a flag for me with Northern Illinois.